and welcome to Amethyst Star Crafting. My name is Jane Ormark and I'm a UK independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. And today we're going to make some of these cute little boxes for Halloween. They open up like that. They are 2 1/4 inches in diameter, so you can fit lots of little treats, goodies, anything you want for the Halloween table, treats, something like that. So let's get started. We need the scoreboard to start off with. The nice thing is that you can get 2 of these on from one sheet of cardstock, so you can actually make quite a few of them, and you really just use scraps and things. So I'm going to put the measurements and things down there for you. They will be over on my blog, but what we need to start off with is a piece of cardstock which measures 4.5 inches by 7.5 inches. Let's bring that scoreboard down so you can see it. And on the long side, let's move this out of there so I can follow along with you. So on the long side, we are going to score it at 1 inch. So I'm going to stand up to do this because it's easier, because I haven't got a lot of space on my desk to do this. So we're going to score it at 1 inch. We are going to score it at 3 1/4 inches. We're going to score it at 4 1/4 inches. Whoops. Let's get that on the score. I'm trying to do it over and above and under my lights. And 6 1/2 inches. Then we're going to turn it onto the short side, and we score it at 1 inch. And we score it at 3 1/4 inches. So that's all the scoring that we need. I can move that out of the way, which gives us a little bit more space. And I'm going to put this out and I'm going to keep it there. So as I say, you can freeze the frame. And let me make sure that it's sort of just about in shot on there. I'm going through it all with you anyway. We need a bone folder. And you are going to crease all of your lines. In fact, I'm going to move this out of the way now, because I will have all the details over on my blog. And if you've frozen the screen and copied them down, that's fine. But the link to my blog will be below, and I'll put all the measurements and everything on here. But it's a nice little treat box, which in the UK, we don't celebrate Halloween the same as in some other countries. However, we do celebrate, which is only a few days afterwards, we celebrate Bonfire Night. And Bonfire Night, we have, it's to celebrate the failed attempt at the blowing up of the Houses of Parliament by Guy Fawkes. And we have a bonfire and fireworks, and quite often we go to professional displays and things, but quite often we have family round and just have some fun, bit of fancy dress and things like that. And so these would be ideal for that sort of table. Okay, now very simple cutting on this. We are just going to cut down on all of the score lines down here up to the first one. So it's a very simple, straightforward. Now, I always say with box making, take your time to get beautiful, lovely, crisp edges. Don't rush it. A little tip as well, when you are cutting, you'll notice you've got rectangles and squares. On most boxes, you will have rectangles and squares. Rule of thumb, your squares you can notch into. Your rectangles you don't. So when you're starting out box making, when you cut just inside your score lines, not on the score line but just inside. And then when you're doing your just notching out, we always notch out just a little bit because it helps the box fold. So when you're notching out, you only do that on the squares. So again on here, we are just going to cut slightly inside that score line on your rectangles. So slightly in on your rectangles. Slightly in on your rectangles. And slightly in. So when I say slightly in, you're going just to the side of the score line. And then on your rectangles, you can wedge in. Sorry, on your squares, you can wedge in. So squares, you wedge. Rectangles, you leave alone. And I found that that's helped me. And I find as well, if I do the cuts first and then do the wedging in, I don't end up cutting the wrong piece. I think sometimes we can rush to try and get the things done, and we end up making mistakes. And I always say, there was I had a friend who used to do quite a lot of decorating and things like that, and I always used to say, oh my goodness, do you really have to, you know, sand the walls and size the walls and do all of these bits and pieces? And his philosophy was, if you get the preparation right, then the finished result will look amazing. And I think that that's very true with box making. If you spend a little time doing your preparation, then the finished results will be good. If you rush it and hurry it, and your lines aren't accurate, and you don't use your bone folder, then you can get into all sorts of trouble. Okay, now we need to put the little mats and things on. So the mats, we need 2 pieces of Whisper White cardstock, which measure, everything is 1/4 inch down. So these are 2 inches by 2 inches, and the designer series paper is 1 3/4 by 1 3/4. Let me just grab my glue quickly. I've stuck these on already to just save a little bit of time, but I always try and put the my pieces on before I put the box together. It helps. It's easier to line it up, and it just makes it go together easier as well. So we're just going to put these in on the center like this, and take the other one. I think my glue's just about coming to, I always say this, I think my glue's about to come to an end. I use so much of this glue that it's always coming to an end. Okay, then we need 7 of these little pieces, and these are going to be the white measures. Let me just have a look at my measurements on here. So the white measures 2 inches, because it's going to come on to here. So it's exactly the same as the other, 2 inches by 7/8 of an inch. This is an inch, this little piece. So you need to make it just a smidge underneath, so that your designer series paper is 1/2 inch by 1 3/4 inches. So it means that when you cut out your panels, you can cut the whole lot down in one go, because you know that your width is going to be the same. So your width is 2 inches. You cut a 2-inch strip, and then you cut your 2 by 2 and your 2 by 7/8. And then with the designer series paper, you cut yourself a strip of 1 3/4, and then you cut 2 pieces 1 3/4 by 1 3/4, and then you cut 7 pieces at the 1 3/4 by 1/2 inch. Okay, so everything is 1/4 inch smaller, and we're putting these on to all of these edges because I think it just makes it look a little bit more professional. Also, it helps when you're putting the box together. It makes it a little bit more sturdy. I tend not to make boxes out of just a single sheet of designer series paper unless they are teeny weeny little boxes. The reason being is that they're just not robust enough. If you're making boxes for children's gifts, or even for adults, you want to have something that you open and you think, oh, that's nice. Whereas by using the designer series paper as a mat, it also, I think, makes it look a little bit more professional as a box. And also it's far more robust. It'll stand up to more opening, and as I say, I prefer it. I always try and do, where I can, a reinforced box or something that's just got a little bit of extra strength to it. So this is the last little panel on here. So we've now put all our panels on, and now we can actually go to make the box. So you've got 2 pieces. So what we do is we'll make the bottom of the box first. So let's put some glue on these tabs. So you want your glue to come down. It says me, come on, glue. Whenever I say come on, it always happens. So I always shout at my glue and say come on, and then it happens. So we want to make sure that the tabs, you've got them running down on there. Now I am going to do all of these. I suggest that you only do 1 or 2 at a time. I'm only doing this because it's for speed. It means that I'm not doing it. I'm not doing the top ones at the same time. But so then what we're going to do is we're just going to take these pieces in and just make sure that they are right up to the line on there. So you need to try and get it, as I say, as accurately as you can, and then fold onto the other. Now wet glue does take a moment longer to dry. However, for me, I found that it's the best for me because it allows what they call the wiggle room. So I'm just going to put my finger in on that one as well again. So we just get those nicely done. And then we're going to take this one, and this, you do the bottom of the box first. So this one is going to come in on here. And again, we're just going to take it up to that corner so that it's nice. And that's, as I say, that's where you get your wiggle room. You can do it so you get it right onto your edge. And then we'll take this last one, which I'm going to have to just ease in like that. And just pop that one in on there. Make sure that's up to that seam line as well. Like that. And then the top ones come down and go in like that. Now, I tend to just make sure it's easier for closing. We're going to take the, glue the tabs down first. So just take some glue and, oops, that's probably a little bit too much glue. There's me saying it wasn't coming out. It's now coming out. All gunnels blazing. Okay, now to ensure that my box will close beautifully, I tend to put it down first like this, and then put my flap in and take my top in on here. So as I say, I've got it exactly, it's just me with a little bit of glue hanging out, I've got it exactly fitting. If I haven't been completely accurate with any of the measurements or in the gluing it together by putting the lid on with the box actually closed. You know that that lid is going to open and close. I just got a little bit too much glue on there. Okay, so hold it just for a second because it's wet glue, and then we can open it up like this, and you know that it is going to fit nice and snugly. So we need to make just a little bit of a thumb hole in here. It makes it easier to find it. I know you're going to put the decoration on the top, but if you just take it in to where it goes to the top, it just fits right in. If you can see on there, I've got it just to that piece, and then give it a squeeze and you get a tiny little thumb piece that comes out like that, and then that goes in on there, so then it makes it easier to open. Now for decorating it, I have taken the absolutely lovely Monster Bash Designer Series paper. It's available from the 4th of September, and there is a, we'll have a quick little look through you. There's a sheet of lovely little sort of topper pieces. There is a coordinating die, however I just fussy cut the whole sheet out one evening while I was watching the television, so that's what we're using. There are lots of other designs. There's you know, haunted houses, there's potions and things, there's books for Halloween, so some lovely papers in there. But these ones I thought were great, and when I fussy cut them out, what I do is I just put them in an envelope, so I've got them exactly where I want them. Now on these two I did a little dragon and the girl, so I think on this one, shall we have a mummy, or we could have the chap. Actually, I quite like the chap. So I didn't always fussy cut these out the best, so I'm just trimming off the edges just a little bit. And I think we'll have, shall we have that one in the centre? Actually, I quite like the mummy. I think the mummy's quite funny, isn't it? I think I'm going to have the mummy. Right, so decision made, I'm going to have the mummy. And we are then going to just literally glue that on. Let's put these pieces back in here. All fingers and thumbs. So as I say, little tip, put all your pieces in the envelope, keep them in the your designer series bag that you've got all your papers in, and then you've always got them to hand. I do that with the little tiny scrap pieces, and as I say, anything I've fussy cut out. Our papers at the moment are absolutely lovely. There's quite a few designs where you can fussy cut things out. So let's just put him in the centre like that. There we are. And you have, as I say, some lovely little fun little boxes that you can fill with all sorts of little treats for Halloween. So hope you enjoyed that. Thank you so much for watching me. Do look forward to seeing you again. Bye bye.